Alright, I am back with the soap opera diagnosis for the week. I think the main topics today will be The Bold and the Beautiful, Days of Our Lives, and EastEnders. I'll try to talk a little bit of General Hospital later, since I think a lot of people like to hear my opinion on that, but I really don't have a lot to say because not a whole lot has changed from last week. I'm going to begin with Days of Our Lives because the writer, Ron Carlivati, who I've talked about a lot over the past few months, put out a tweet yesterday. You know, he's always had thin skin when it comes to his writing. You either have to praise him or you can't say nothing at all. So this is kind of deja vu because this happened when he was writing General Hospital. You know, it always gets to a point where his writing gets so bad that it becomes almost unwatchable, which is what I've been saying for the past few months now. And I'm glad more people online are starting to speak on it so that he can put out this tweet. But he says in his tweet, "Everyone tell me your job so I can tweet at you how you're doing it wrong." Which I just feel like it's so much different in an entertainment world, which he is in, to of course you're going to get criticism on Twitter. And if you can't handle it on Twitter, well then I don't really know what to tell you. You just probably shouldn't be on there. But this also goes back to my point with Ron and Frank Valentini, how, you know, the industry, the soap opera digests, and all the mainstream soap opera journalism, we'll say in quotation marks, have, you know, always praised these two since their time on One Life to Live, which is why I think even in their heads they don't think they could do any wrong, because the soap opera press has always made it seem like they could do any wrong, and they make all these excuses for Ron and all these excuses for Frank that I've been talking about for 2 months now or more. But I'm just glad that he's getting called out on it, because Days is very unwatchable. All the stories right now are just all bad stories. And I think we need to see Days be able to become a soap opera again, because them doing this whole wink, wink, nudge, nudge shit all the time, and everything's like a comedy that isn't funny, it's not working. And it's hard because they do write so far in advance and record so far in advance to save money that, of course, they can't see what the fans are saying about their stories until months down the line. But, you know, the producers on Days should be able to know that if Ron is recycling stories yet again that didn't work the first time, like this story with Sarah, then why would you even let him do it? I just don't understand it. So, with Days shooting so far in advance, I'm pretty sure they're probably recording the fall now, and who knows how far along they've written. I don't know what they're going to do to pivot in the future, but right now the spring isn't looking like it's going to be any better than the past 3 or 4 months have been on the soap show. But I had to talk about this because, you know, I'm certainly one to criticize Ron, but you gotta have thick skin, I guess. But Ron just doesn't. Well, speaking of moves in soap operas, we'll move on to EastEnders, because move over to Britain before I get to the rumors regarding possible Bold and the Beautiful story coming up, which I think is just a rumor, but it could be accurate. Who knows? But over on EastEnders in England, they finally, the producer Jon Sen, finally, his last episode aired. He'll finally be gone, and we'll be having, I believe his name is Chris Clenshaw, who is coming in as the new producer, who has quite a mess to clean up over on EastEnders, because as I've been talking about with EastEnders for a while now, there's stories that have just dragged on and on. Has a lot in common with the American soap operas, where the stories just drag on too long. The main one being that Gray storyline. You know, he went from the abuser to basically like a serial killer. That's what tends to happen to British soap opera villains these days. But so that was the big climax of Jon Sen's last days on the show, we finally had Gray's downfall. I'll talk more about it probably whenever I do the rankings for the month of March, but online I see like it's kind of a mixed bag between, was the Gray climax good? Was it bad? It was certainly dramatic, but even the climax was drawn out, in my opinion. Yeah, he got to, like, some of the people whose lives or who were family with some of the people he killed got to have like these moments with him. I guess that was needed in his downfall, and he was eventually arrested, even though he just tried to kill himself or whatever. But I still didn't think it was like this great epic climax, because I think the story went on too long, so like we all kind of just stopped caring. So that was another problem with these soap operas, when their stories just drag on way too long for years. It can't. If the story is going to drag on for years, at least make it good. And EastEnders failed with that when it comes to Gray. But I, for one, am glad that Jon Sen is out of here. Also online with EastEnders, we see their new set that they put a lot of money into. They've been building the set for years, apparently. I don't know if they would have built this new set if you know, everything that happened since COVID and the show not doing so well these days in the ratings. But they did put that money into it, and they built the set now, and it looks great. It's a great set for EastEnders. So hopefully Chris Crenshaw can turn the show around, because Jon Sen just didn't. He ruined a lot of characters, which was his worst thing. A lot of the vet characters had some really terrible writing for them. I've seen fans online even talk about how Callum, just before Jon Sen came about, his stories were better and he had more connections. And now that one episode after Jon Sen's gone, suddenly Callum's stories already seem to be moving along better with Callum's history. So, yeah. I think it's great for EastEnders that Jon Sen is gone. But they have a mess to clean up still. We'll see how it goes. Alright, let's get to Bold and the Beautiful, which the rumors online over the past few weeks have been, even the past couple months, they've been like, some of the actors on set were hyping up a big twist or something shocking happening. And so I think the speculation over the past week that I've seen on Twitter is that the show is going to have how the last couple of years were a dream or something. That seems to be a very popular theory on that rumor for the show, because if it's this big twist, that maybe that's what it is. I'm not even convinced there's going to be a big twist. I don't even know if the actors or actresses online were talking about this upcoming Brooke episode with Brooke and all of her past men. But if that is a true spoiler and not a rumor, I think that's dumb, of course. And, you know, Bold and the Beautiful for me over the past 2 months has definitely been faltering again. You know, I had it pretty high in my rankings for a while. I know I've had some commenters. I think his name is Isaiah. Yes, Isaiah Hill. I know he's commented a lot about how Bold and the Beautiful is just not what it used to be, and how it fell apart over the past decade like the rest of the soaps in America. And it has. I just felt like, you know, towards the end of the year and in January, it was just a very entertaining show for me, at least. But they always fall back on the same shit, you know, love triangles between the same people. And they just lost a lot of momentum with going right back to Ridge and Taylor together, coming off of Ridge being upset with Brooke. It's kind of the opposite of EastEnders, where, you know, I was complaining about the storyline taking too long. Sometimes on Bold and the Beautiful, things move too fast that they just look dumb. There has to be a balance, obviously, but if the rumor is true and the past couple years have been a dream sequence, and I don't think this rumor is true, but if it is, then The Bold and the Beautiful will definitely be falling right down my rankings with the rest of the American soap operas, at least faster than it already is. Because it's such a bad cop-out. You know, I know Dallas did that back in the day, in prime time, when a storyline was a dream. But I think this would be worse because, you know, Bold and the Beautiful is a soap opera. It's on every day. So depending on how far back they would go to make that it was a dream, you just kind of wasted your viewers' time for the past few years, which seems really stupid to me. And I don't even know how they would do that, because wouldn't they need some of the same characters that were still on the show a couple years ago that no longer are? Like Rick and Maya especially. And I don't think they would have that. So I just don't believe that rumor. And I kind of hope it's not true. So if there is a big twist, maybe it's something different. Or maybe there's no big twist at all. This coming week will be Sydney Michaela's last week as Trina. So we will be seeing her last scenes with Spencer before the new Trina takes over. I hope they give the fans good scenes that they deserve, but you know, I don't trust that show. I've talked a lot of shit about it these past 2 months. Alright, that's really all I have this week. I had to talk about those 3 topics, especially, you know, Ron's tweet just made me roll my eyes, because it really is deja vu. He used to argue with General Hospital fans hardcore when he was writing for that show. So to see a lot of Days fans starting to turn on his writing gives me a little bit of joy, because I've been talking about how bad it's been since October. And EastEnders, I'm hoping it improves. I think it will improve from what it has been the past 3 years. You know, Kate Oates, however, is still at BBC. So I don't know how much of an influence she has over EastEnders compared to what the new producer will have over EastEnders. I don't like her style either. And then lastly, the rumors for Bold and the Beautiful. Alright, that's all I got.